Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're seeing this face for the first time on YouTube, Facebook or Twitter, subscribe, like my page, also follow me. In today's discussion, we want to delve into the current social, political and economic landscape of Zimbabwe. Now, the question is, has it transitioned towards business as usual? And after the elections, or there are persistent issues that warrant our attention? So we have the Sovereign Wealth Fund issue. It's been trending for the whole week. To begin with, let's explore the concept of sovereign wealth funds. I'm going to explain, so I want to be a bit simple so that we get to understand each other and you have to pay attention. So in essence, sovereign wealth funds represent a formidable financial mechanism employed by governments worldwide to manage their nation's wealth. Actually, all governments have it. They are typically funded through revenues accrued from various sources such as natural resources, trade, investments. Think of a sovereign wealth fund as a massive savings account, but not for an individual, but for a whole country. So it's funded by government using revenues from various sources. Sovereign wealth funds serve multifaceted purposes, including bolstering economic stability, financing critical infrastructural projects, and acting as a financial safety net during turbulent economic periods. See, that amount you keep in your savings account for an emergency, or it all depends with the type of sovereign wealth fund. There are different types depending on the objectives, and some are called stabilization funds, some are called savings or future generation funds, or strategic development sovereign wealth funds, etc. So the president has brought in the Mutapa investment fund, which is in specific context a noteworthy development. The introduction of the Mutapa fund promulgated by ED, the president of Zimbabwe, under statutory instrument 156 of 2023. This fund represents substantial venture akin to a sovereign wealth fund aiming to optimizing Zimbabwe's economic potential. So it's a strategic development fund or strategic development sovereign wealth fund. Sounds interesting, right? Our leaders are very smart. However, there are concerns about the transparency and potential corruption about it. It's necessitating vigilance from both citizens and the elected representatives. But sadly, our representatives are saying little because maybe it's a whole complicated topic. And maybe let me say this. I think we need to elect knowledgeable members of parliament, because when one gets into the parliament and they have never understood the concept of sovereign wealth funds, and when they're tabled, our MPs are always hiding behind their desks like they don't know anything. Actually, most of them don't. So which comes back to the issue of merit and awarding people positions not because of their proximity to our political parties, but because they are people who are knowledgeable and can be able to be truthful and stand with what's right. So there's a significance in this whole sovereign wealth fund, and it also affects the day-to-day life of a citizen. And if our MPs or members of parliament that represent us don't know this, we are doomed, because our MPs are afraid to even argue on this because they don't know much about it. In fact, it's not the first time Zimbabwe has had a sovereign wealth fund. It used to be called the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Zimbabwe. Why are people finding it so weird and concerning? It's that the president has moved shares of 20 companies, which are Default Mine, the Zupco Company, Kovimba Investments, Silo Investments, the GMB commercial arm, which is also there is also Cold Storage Commission, Petroted, POSB, Net One Cellular, the National Railways of Zimbabwe, Tel One, etc. And you have to listen to this. The president exempted the Mutapa Investment Fund from provisions of the Procurement Act. So the Procurement Act is an act that guides how transparent the government expenditure is supposed to be done, in essence to transacting and also this expenditure of the assets that are within the sovereign wealth fund. This means that the funds that are spent within the Mutapa investment fund are spent without due procedure and without public scrutiny, which means you don't need to question. You're not supposed to be part of it. Actually, it's nothing to do with you. And this is something huge. It means there will be no transparency and also accountability, because none of us will know what the hell is going on with these public funds. Now you see why we need to limit the power of the president. One man can have power to determine how the public funds are spent. We are in trouble. And the most important thing actually is the aspect and emphasis on the role of the members of parliament, the MPs, rather than engaging on frivolous discussions on social media. The populace expect the issues to be tabled and also the people to be educated on these matters. The effectiveness of parliamentary oversight is paramount, and it can help us to prevent corruption and to ensure that there is a responsible use of national assets. But what do we have? Our members of parliament are busy tweeting and retweeting their leaders to be great giants. If it's not for ZANU-PF saying ED Chibaba, or if it's not for the CCC camp saying Nelson Chamisa is the future. The future of what? The money and the assets of the country are being stolen right in our sight without you calling it out. Now, last week we talked about the drama in the CCC camp. I have a guest today and we'll discuss the issues to do with Nelson Chamisa. And here's Regan Lovo, a colleague, a public policy analyst and a consultant, and a very prominent scholar in public policy. Let's get to it. So, my brother, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Tabitha Simon Says. You have the privilege of becoming the first person who has graced this platform as the first interviewee on this channel. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much. I'm very touched that I'm the first person to be on this huge channel of yours. I hope the conversation will go a great way in improving our policy and our political space in the Zimbabwean.
That's great. All right. The first thing, I'm pretty sure we have engaged in these conversations, but then I need us to take a step back and look at the elections that we recently had in Zimbabwe. Maybe an overview from your point of view on how you saw them and what are the key take notes, like, the notes to take on the happenings of the election. I'm pretty sure they were the most shambolic elections we've ever had in history. What do you take in that?
These past elections that took place, we applaud the people of Zimbabwe for conducting themselves well, with no cases of violence, with no cases of shootings like that happened in 2018. There was a restraint from both parties, though there were challenges. There were challenges in the delay of the coming of the ballot boxes. That dented the process a little bit. Hence, we saw the report by the SADC monitoring team. I think the basis where they go. I think this is where they got the opportunity to precise what the election was, because of the issue of the delay of the ballot boxes being sent to some polling station, especially the so-called strongholds of the opposition, Bulawayo and Harare. Now the election was peaceful. The results were announced on time. Some challenges. Because in every election, even in most developed countries, there are challenges. So I believe we should take those issues that were raised by the electoral commissions or electoral supervising bodies to improve our elections in the future. But ZANU-PF won the presidential election as announced by ZEC. Then the CCC came second, Nelson Chamisa. Then the parliamentary elections, ZANU-PF got more votes than the CCC.
Okay, my brother. So, the question that everyone has is, yes, we know Nelson Chamisa has denied the elections and said these elections were symbolic and they were unfair and they were rigged. Maybe a bit of perspective on the idea that Nelson Chamisa seems to be, well, it's something that I promise my viewers that we are going to delve into why Nelson Chamisa has become the talk of the town to be kind of weak when it comes to dealing with ZANU-PF. Maybe if you can get into that perspective and we can share our insights on that.
Yeah, Nelson Chamisa will claim that the elections were rigged. If they were rigged, for surely, I can't dispute that. Maybe he might say they were rigged. He should bring the evidence, because if Nelson Chamisa managed to field all election observers in all the polling stations countrywide, they have the V23s, they have the V11s. So if the V11s and the V23s, if election observers were there in all the stations, they should have concrete evidence through those V11, V23s, and other forms of outputs, data output, which show that the elections were rigged. Otherwise, if he says that the elections were rigged without evidence, I'm afraid that spoils the party for him.
Okay.
Because if he claims that the elections were rigged without evidence, we need evidence.
All right. But then, in my view, I feel like yes, we do have the scientific fact of saying if there was rigging, bring evidence, but there are some things that are quite in the open. Like, for example, the late ballot boxes in cities that were recorded. Like, for example, these ballots are printed in Harare, but then Uzumba, for instance, had ballots way early than Harare itself. How do we justify that as not a level, a ground of rigging? It's quite clear in a way, unless if maybe we're talking about rigging in the sense of collecting data and then we see if it's matching with the output of the results. You get the point. But how about the preconditions to the electoral the electoral process, the preconditions, the environment, and also during the course of the election? Is that not a reason enough for us to say that's a cause of concern to you? What do you think about that?
Okay, thank you. In any election worldwide, we look, as students of politics, we look at how the election was free by assessing the pre, during, and post.
Yes.
So pre, because there are issues as I said, in all the countries there are difficulties in conducting elections. There were issues, especially the issue of distributing ballots list. It's an unfortunate incident which compromised the electoral process. I hope ZEC will learn in future to make sure that all the logistics are in place, to make sure that all stations in the country, including the urban areas or the opposition strongholds, have their ballots in time. It's an unfortunate thing, yes, when it comes to election observing, because every station was supposed to get their ballots on time. I think it disturbed heavily, but otherwise, one of the key issues in Zimbabwe about elections is that they've been characterized by violence before, but now the elections have been full. We did not have serious issues of violence, or though there were some few unfortunate instances. But
Okay.
the pre-period, I think it started to raise some issues about the pre-period, the pre-election period. We talk about the issue of the so-called buzz. I don't know. I have never seen them, but I just hear the so-called buzz were putting desk in front of
yes.
election posts. As a student of politics, it can amount to intimidation in some
We
aspects.
also need to address the issue of how Nelson Chamisa has been involved in imposing candidates in their respective positions, especially in local government. How do you take off that? Over to you.
Uh, yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a disappointment, especially for his support base in Matabeleland, which had voted him in great numbers. In Bulawayo, he swept everything. Parliamentarians, councillors in Mad North, he almost swept everything. I think it's a slap in the face for his supporters who has so much faith in him, because the people of Matabeleland, especially Bulawayo, Mad North, had voted him not because they like him, but out of desperation. It's not a protest vote. I'll coin it with a new term called a desperate vote. The people of Matabeleland have for so long. They feel that anything that which is against ZANU-PF is their savior. And I think politicians have taken advantage of their desperation, that they can bring any donkey, put it as a candidate, and people will vote it just because it's against ZANU-PF. And that has costed the people of Matabeleland a lot. So the desperate, as I said again, I'll call it a desperate vote, not a protest vote, because people are just desperate. They'll vote against anything that is against ZANU-PF. So that has created a problem, because people have taken so much, have had so much faith. The people of Matabeleland especially had so much faith in that man.
Yeah.
So if people put such faith in you, vote you in numbers, give you seats, give you urban seats and parliamentary seats, then you go on to impose mayors and deputy mayors for them. It's a slap in the face.
No, I do understand. I do understand. On that fact, I think it's a very crucial point to take note, because this is exactly what people are are protesting over, having ZANU-PF in the first place. We are tired of politics where it's a top to bottom, not a bottom to top approach. And with that, I feel like if Nelson Chamisa indeed, as far as I'm concerned, these seem to be allegations, but if this happened, because I'm pretty sure I read the story, and the people of Vic Falls ended up putting their own mayor and deputy mayor in place instead of those that were imposed from Harare. So, in your opinion, maybe in any case, what do you think is lacking for Matabeleland people to create their own form of leadership that represents their real needs, without looking at Chamisa? Because you have rightly said it, people from Matabeleland will choose anything that is not ZANU-PF. But in this case, how about what has those, like obviously we have ZAPU, we have Mtwagazi, we have other political parties that can come, even independent candidates. What's stopping the Matabeleland people from having homegrown politicians that are supposed to be representing them? Is it not because Chamisa is a popular figure that is making people from Matabeleland choose his side, instead of just going with the flow and creating their own leadership system?
As I said, it's desperation. If a woman is desperate, he can get to marry to anyone, so long he is desperate. So the people of Matabeleland, the issue is desperation. They believe that voting for Chamisa will remove ZANU-PF. They'll have a better life after ZANU-PF. But I'm afraid, even if ZANU-PF gets out of power, the trend that Chamisa is using against them, I fear they will regret. I fear they will regret. I don't have anything against Nelson Chamisa, because you cannot impose. To me, it's betrayal, because you cannot impose people to people who have voted you defiantly. Yes. You cannot impose. You should treat those people with respect.
We truly need to create a divide. You get the point? To say, are the Matabeleland people refusing the idea of an imposed person from Chamisa, or they're refusing the idea of someone who is not from the region. Those are the two aspects that I wanted us to really, dichotomize and make sure that we focus on each and every aspect in a particular manner. Over to you.
I believe the problem comes with imposition. First, people don't want the imposition, because once you impose people, you will elect dunderheads as leaders.
True.
You will elect fools as representatives of people.
True.
You will elect people without any leadership skills. Then you will compromise service delivery. That's what the issue is.
Yeah.
I think the people know that if you just elect a nobody, make him a leader without any history of credentials or what. Because we have a case where last time in Bulawayo, where someone was a deputy mayor, but it was discovered that he had committed crime, he had stolen something. So you see how it can compromise service delivery if you just impose people. Let the people govern. I like the ANC. I was a big student of ANC politics. There was their speech which says the people shall govern. Let the people govern. With the problem with our politics is that our leaders would like to detect things from the top, instead having a bottom-top approach where the people govern, where the people are holding leaders into accountability. Now we have a problem. Our leaders don't want to be accountable. They want to tell people what to do. So we are having a problem there. So the issue of the Bulawayo issue is that people don't want to get people imposed. And people also want control of their destiny. They want to control their destiny. It's not about what the Mabuto is coming out of Bulawayo. No. But it's what people want. We want people whom we know, who have a track record. It's like in Mbopoma. I have identified a lot of problems, especially their council candidates in the CCC. If you ask people from the grassroots, do you know this person? They say, no, I don't know him. We're just told by the party that he is the candidate. We're going to vote for him. And that's quite a problem, because the person will be not having the history of the area, the problems of the area. So can you solve the problems of any area which you don't know? Most of the problem that we are having now, especially in these councils that are run, especially by the opposition, I don't have anything against them. They will impose people, those with money, those who are connected to those in the top. That compromises the service delivery, because those people don't have the history of those areas which they came to represent.
True.
Those people are not motivated by the desire to improve the people's life in communities, but are motivated by money getting stands, which I term it as a mercenary syndrome in our politics that is developed in our politics very much.
Yeah. All right. The last question. Wow. Because of our time, the last question is, in your own opinion, do you think Nelson Chamisa is a sellout? You think Nelson Chamisa is selling out?
A sellout in what aspect? Because he is fighting for, as they will say, they're fighting for a democratic society. We welcome his contribution, but I think he is being let down by his actions. He is intolerant. I don't know him. I have never been close to him, but I believe he likes worshippers. I believe if he wants to improve on his leadership skills, he should surround himself with truth tellers, not worshippers. He should be accountable to the people. Because as we speak now, there's an issue where there's someone who's claiming that he has recalled his MPs and councillors. It's because there are loopholes, because of his stance of saying we will form structures at the right time. If the party has structures, he should have structures which will determine everything, which will control the party, which will hold him to accountable. Because one thing in Africa, the problem that we have, our leaders don't want to be held to accountability.
That's true.
Hence, we have Mr. Nelson Chamisa saying, yeah, issue of structures away with it. It gives in the reality, which means it gives opportunity to even his opponents.
But look at it. Look at it this way.
The lack of structure.
But look at it this way. I've always said, whenever I'm doing my podcast, I've always said, you know what? The problem with Zimbabwe is our political culture. It's more reflective, because these leaders come from the society, and the society is the one that brings leaders. A leader is a product of a society. So maybe we might be looking at Nelson Chamisa thinking, oh, Nelson Chamisa is the one who likes to be praised. I even recall there's a video of Nelson Chamisa saying, please don't praise me, because that's what brought Mugabe. I feel like our politics, our political landscape in Zimbabwe is so poor that we just clap hands and we go defy our leaders in a certain way. Look at, for example, ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF treats ED like honey. Imagine you calling another man honey, ED Uchi. Honestly, you have someone saying ED is Cremora. These are the people that cause our leaders to become gods and demigods. They think they run the show. They think they are meant to die on the throne. Instead, we are supposed to treat them as our servants. In a normal democratic society, leaders are not supposed to be treated like gods. They're supposed to be treated like normal, ordinary civil servants who are supposed to work for the upliftment of the people. And now, like you rightly put it, Nelson Chamisa might not actually be the one who wants to have this idea of, being named, the all-knowing, the better man amongst every other person. Like, come on, let's be honest. There's always someone better than you. But being popular entails someone to become this being because of what we are as Zimbabweans. I think it's just a political culture that needs to be corrected with us before we talk about the leaders. I don't know what's your take with that.
Our political culture is very toxic and dangerous to the citizens, because we, the citizens, we create monarchs.
True.
We create monarchs. Chamisa now is a monarch in CCC. Every leader is a monarch in Zimbabwe, because if you criticize that leader, they will call you with names.
You go to the spike.
Today, if you criticize Chamisa, you'll be labeled a CIO, a functionary of ZANU-PF. Today, if you point out bad things in ZANU-PF, they'll call you a Western agent.
True.
It's the culture. It's the culture. But the problem with the culture, we breed monarchs who will end up being monsters in future.
That's
Look at
true.
Tsvangirai. Look at Mugabe. They became monsters. That's the fact. They became monsters.
It's sad.
To the oppressed singers. So the culture, the political culture, we are intolerant. We're intolerant if you criticize every leader. Hence, I have put more effort. I'll tell people even today, I'll put more effort in holding accountable the opposition. Why? Because in case they take power, they should be used to criticism, being held accountable. Because if we don't criticize them, they will be immune to criticism when they get to power, and they'll become very dangerous to any society. So we should invest more in scrutinizing the opposition which strives to take power in order to improve them, so that in case in future they take power, they become people who respect the people who are held accountable easy, people who respect the constitution, etc.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Regan Lovu, he came with a very interesting conversation with us, and I'm so glad that he came with a very, very insightful conversation with us, and I can't wait to have a second interview. Please be available, sir, so that we can have more insightful conversations. And I am intending to put you on side to side with a certain individual I know who would have different thoughts as yours. So thank you so much, my brother. Thank you for being with us, and I can't wait to show the people this episode. Thank you so much. It's been nice having you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Now, due to how long the interview became, allow me to say the part B of this video is going to be uploaded separately for those who are not patient enough for longer videos. So meet us on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Cheers.